Today, I've crash landed onto Moonstone Island, a magical world filled with ungodly creatures to defeat, dangerous temples to conquer, crops straight out of an eldritch horror, and a dang fishbowl with legs. Can I complete the entire main story, every side quest, and fill out my whole Pokedex in just 100 days? Or will I just get too distracted by the buff wizard man? Probably. We start out on this beautiful grassy island where our parents are prepping us as we're about to spend a year away from home for our alchemist training. Our dad teaches us how to plant seeds, and I calmly explain to him that I have 40 hours in the demo of this game, so I think I know what I'm doing. Then he lets us pick our starter spirit. This is the creature we're going to use for most of the run, and after testing them all in the demo, the choice is pretty obvious. You suck. You're okay. But you're the way. Why Capacity is the obvious choice you'll see later, but for now, we go in, talk to our mom, and then get on our broom and set out for our adventure. But our broom crash lands onto this island because no one thought to, teach us how to fly in the 20 years we lived there. I use this time to whack on rocks looking for these little crawl spaces, as we need 10 copper ore to unlock the furnace recipe, and I want to get that as soon as possible. However, I have pretty awful luck, and I don't find one until moments before passing out, and only managed to get 2 copper ore. Rough start, but some of my favorite journeys have started with unlucky events. We wake up at noon, passed out in a tavern bed, and we're greeted by Asano, who's the owner of Moonstone Island's bar and de facto mayor. Because like any good democracy, our leadership is appointed by whoever can provide the most alcohol. She gives us our tools back, so we head straight into the crawl space I found last night to get the remaining copper I need. After grabbing the rest of our needed copper, I head back to the main island and find myself the warp whistle, which will instantly teleport us back to this spot, but can only be used once per day. Extremely useful pickup. After that, I head over to the right side of the island to encounter my first dungeon. Yes, for those new to this game, there are dungeons scattered across the islands waiting to be completed. These feature various Zelda-like puzzles and then a big old boss at the end. The first room is based off the second worst puzzle in Pokemon Red, as I hopelessly stumble upon teleporters hoping to finally make it out. In fact, it takes me 2 in-game hours of rage, frustration, and guessing, but I finally make it through. In the next room, I make sure to take both battles, as time doesn't pass during fights, so doing them can only benefit you. These fights push our B all the way to level 5, making us well equipped for the boss of this dungeon. Before we head into that though, I use my level up points, put all my stats into speed, and then I get to add 3 cards to my deck. I first add Perception, a card that costs 0 and draws a card. And make sure to remember this guy, alright? Because he's gonna become very relevant later. With my preparation done, I can go in to fight the dungeon's boss, the Guardian. I explained the combat system in this game like a million times in my other videos, so if you want an in-depth explanation, you can go watch those. But here's the basic overview. Basically, you start out a battle with a certain amount of armor, which is your resistance to an attack. So if you have 2 armor and the enemy doesn't attack for 5 damage, you only take 3. But if your armor is broken, you're unable to attack for 2 turns, and all attacks do 1.5 damage. So the goal of most battles is just to break the opponent's armor and then spam attacks. Luckily, this boss only rolled 4 armor, and since I put all my stat points into speed, my bash removes 3 armor per hit. While I think this is gonna make this fight a complete breeze, I actually struggle with it, as I'm just not able to output enough damage. This results in my little bee dying, but luckily, Capacity's ability allows her to revive once per fight. After that, I'm able to come back and win. That was definitely a close fight, and I'm gonna need to get a lot stronger before I take on the next one. I go and claim my reward in my 4th moonstone and also the crafting recipe to make sprinklers. I head to the final room and pray at the Ondo tree, which raises my stamina by 10. After that, I head outside and grab this relic, which lets me remove a card from my deck. I then spend the night looking for moonstones, since there's one on every island, which means this starter island has 3 to collect. I need to try and get to 12 moonstones as soon as I possibly can, for reasons I'll explain later. I end up finding them all around 1 a.m. and make a mad dash to the tavern to grab a bed. If you pass out in this game, you wake up at 9 a.m. instead of 6 a.m., so it's crucial for me to make it. I managed to make it to bed at 1:50, seconds before passing out. On day 3, I head to the blacksmith and I sell my 10 copper ore to her, and she gives me the furnace recipe. And with that taken care of, it's time to explore the other islands. There's 100 randomly generated islands to get through, and I want to try completing all 30 dungeons in the first season, so we're gonna have to start moving fast. On our first island, I find another relic arch, of which I grab another cleanse. If you ever played any deck building game, you know how important it is to keep your deck as small as possible, so you'll see me picking up a lot of these. My second island is a beach one, and I happen to find a dungeon on it. I enter inside, quickly make my way through, and move on to the boss. And just like me after I stopped eating my own boogers, now he has a friend. However, since this is a beach island, both of them are water typed, making them weak to my electric attacks, which allows me to pretty easily crush through both of them. This gives me my 2nd memory shard and 7th moonstone. These ending chests also give me a ton of other goodies like copper bars, iron bars, stars, and gems which sell for money. This is all gonna be huge as I'll be islands away from any kind of money-making farm and pursuing my true passion as a begging nomad. I get my Ondo Tree stamina and head downwards to find another island. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have much going on outside this little dandelion fellow, so I inflate my balloon and head off. On the next island, this walking chicken hut strolls up to me as I learn it's a house that belongs to Waldo the Magic Man. Which, like, dude, what happened to your face? Man looks like a Goosebumps episode about a kid who spent too much money on baseball cards. He informs us that those memory shards we've been picking up are actually pieces of his memory and that we should report back once we found all 15. I bid the wizard farewell, find myself the island's moonstone, and discover this island also has a dungeon. But the guardian here is only level 6? Pathetic. I take it down with little issue, collect my goodies, and warp whistle home. Once again, I cut it insanely close and jump into bed at 140 because that's just what a dangerous person like me does. As I head to bed, I get my first level ups, which gives you a skill tree with tons of different places to spend your skill point. The first point I got in was the combat skill, which I decide to invest into a skill that makes me 50% more likely to escape from enemies in combat. My second skill point was in archaeology, which is the dungeons and mining category. I decide to invest in weak link, which will knock off 2 armor from those dastardly dungeon guardians. I start off day 4 by adding some cards into my deck, and I notice this card called Fancy Spin that allows me to draw 2 cards and costs 0. Surely the fact that I'm specifically pointing out all the card draw cards I add to my deck will not become important later, right? Before heading off to look for more dungeons, I place down a furnace to start processing my moonstones into moonstone ingots. I figure if I can warp back here at night anyway, it's in my best interest to just set up around here. After that, I find an island, and on it is a warp stone that takes me to an electrical island that has a dungeon on it. Though I have to be careful as electric spirits are generally in the mid to high level range. Once in the dungeon though, I manage to get myself stuck in a Wile E. Coyote chase with these electric spirits. I head through the dungeon and eventually find something extremely unexpected.
Why is this guy blue?
Why are you blue?
Is he shiny?
Yes, this is a holographic spirit, Moonstone Island's version of shiny Pokemon, and there's a 1 in 500 chance of encountering one. Which, like, this is amazing! And he's electric type, meaning he'd be perfect for our team and he could easily replace our Capacity. But it's then that I realize something. His heart indicating his tame level has a lock on it. That's right. Even though I have this ultra rare spirit in front of me, I'm completely locked out of taming it. My heart is broken. And the worst part, this is kind of my fault. You see, back when the very first demo for Moonstone Island dropped, the developer of the game challenged me to try and recruit the highest level spirits in the game, a dark spirit. So I took his challenge head on, gathered a bunch of healing crops and tame fruit, and spammed them on this dark spirit until I tamed it. At this time, I was only supposed to have a level 10 spirit, and here he was now walking around with a level 40. The devs really did not like that I was able to do that so easily, so after my stream, they changed it so you could only tame certain level spirits once you had invested skill points into them. All this to say, I've shot myself in the foot, and I could not be more upset. After making my way through the rest of the dungeon, I finally come on to the Guardian. Now's probably a good time to explain the strategy I'll be using to take on all these high-level enemies with no backup from any other spirits. You see, Capacity gets a card that gives her the Charge status, which gives you extra damage per hit. So if you have 4 charge, each of your attacks will do 4 extra damage. She also has a card called Shock, which does 3 damage 4 times in a row. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Combined with the 1.5 damage boost you get for breaking an enemy's armor, this means that at level 11, my one attack is doing 84 damage. And that's with 0 investment into my attack stat. After nuking the Guardian from orbit, I grab my goodies and head south. I find the wizard's chicken hut again, so I say hi before running into the next dungeon. This dungeon just features 3 required fights in a row, so I've deemed this layout the Gauntlet dungeon. And make sure you remember this too, okay? I know I'm asking you to remember like a bunch of stuff during a stupid YouTube video, but I promise you it'll become relevant later. I get to the boss and I've invested so many stat points in my speed that my bash now does 7 armor, allowing me to take him out on turn 1. Sorry bro, you got B-tin. Get it? Like bees.
Beads?
After goodie grabbing, I decide to warp whistle home as I've now got enough moonstones to craft the glider. The glider is the fastest air movement option in the game and a major upgrade from our current balloon, so it's important for us to try and get it as soon as possible. But first, I gotta turn the moonstones into ingots, so I refresh my furnace. While those are cooking, I collect myself a bunch of wood and craft myself a moonstone enchanter, which gives me access to more whimsical crafting recipes. That night, I get another archaeology level up and I put the point into Dungeon Dasher, which allows me to move faster in dungeons. dungeons. It's less about this specific skill and more that it unlocks really valuable skills behind it. And with that, ends day 4 with us having 5 of 30 dungeons already completed. On day 5, I still need to process my last 2 moonstone ingots so I can craft my glider, so I take the time to grind up some wood and stone while I wait. While grinding, we bump into my old friend Gemlin, who's just as cute as ever. At 12:40, my moonstone ingots are finally finished processing, and I can craft my glider. And just look at how much faster this thing is compared to the balloon. It's insane. Upon heading out, we come across this giant tree temple, and the magic man appears telling us that this is the Spring Temple. Angry spirits locked themselves inside long ago, and now it's our duty to free them. The 4 seasonal temples were actually completely blocked off in the demo of this game, so they're one of the things that I actually know nothing about in this game. To get inside, though, we have to put some required items in this offering table, and right now it's asking us for a cattail and a stone fruit. Both of these are pretty common crops, so I fly on over to a neighboring island, grab them, and open up the temple's doors.
What the frick? The Spring Temple. Whoa, this is cool. Oh, I need to bring more offerings. I don't have a lot of... Oh my god, what is all this?
Inside the temple, we meet our first foe named Longlog, and I mean, yeah, that's what he is, and I love him for being so truthful. Next offering site asked me for a copper and iron ingot. Luckily, I already had those processing on my furnaces back on the main island, so after a brief detour, I come back with both ingots, and for my troubles, I'm given this magic wand that allows me to use stamina to grow crops. The game wants me to use it on this ladder plant back here, and it's a good thing I had that bonus stamina from the Ondo trees because it takes me nearly everything I have to grow this one right here. I take down another long log to find a chest which gives me seeds for my own ladder plants. Behind this chest is another offering site, and this one is asking for a moonstone, which should be easy, and clay, which I've never heard of, so my new goal is to find myself some clay. I head out and check a couple more islands for dungeons before finding one on a poison island and heading in. However, as I make my way through the dungeon, I realize it's already 1:30 a.m., so I warp whistle home. Unfortunately, though, I wasn't quick enough, and I still end up passing out, which, with how many times I've just barely made it home, deserved. I wake up the next morning at 9, which feels horrible. This mistake motivates me to finally place down my home right above the village of Moonstone Island. I mean, if I end up warping here every night to sleep anyway, I might as well just make this my home. I head towards the dungeon I failed to complete last night, but on the way, I bump into a completely different dungeon. I swiftly take down the Guardian without being hit once, leave, and head to the dungeon from last night. But on the way, I accidentally run into a different dungeon. Inside, I run into Marsha, and I cannot explain to you why, but I hate her. I don't really have a good explanation for this, I just do. Every muscle in my being wants me to blow Marsha up with a firework. Once again, I slam through the Guardian without much issue and head to my 3rd dungeon of the day. In here, I find a secret passageway that brings me straight to the boss, which is a relief as it's getting late. This is our first mid-level Guardian, and he sits at a firm level 21. And while he's a bit more difficult than the rest, remember those cards Perception and Fancy Spin I talked about earlier? Turns out that drawing cards for absolutely free with no consequence is like really good. Like really good. Like banned from Yu-Gi-Oh! Really good.
I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional cards from my deck!
This lets me basically draw my entire deck in a single turn, making every battle a cakewalk. I finished that up, having me beat my 3rd dungeon of the day. This gets me the achievement Shawnee See, Shawnee Do, which I noticed the developers added to the game in my honor, which is like, whatever, it's cool, I guess. After grabbing myself a handkerchief, I warp whistle home, collect some wood, and then head to sleep. I got a ton of skill level ups today, and I used them to allow myself to tame low-level spirits, let me draw an extra card on the first turn of combat, and gain 10% more EXP in dungeons. And with that, we're on to day 7, where I complete a dungeon close to home, and then continue exploring from island to island, and it's then that I find something evil, something wrong, something that will fundamentally change how this run goes. And that something is Consume. Consume is a 0-cost card that says discard 2 cards, gain 2 energy. Seems pretty good, right? Pretty good? Do you understand what you're looking at here? Let me ask you a question. Look at Consume, then look at your notebook. You've been jotting down everything I said to remember, right? Okay, now remember those 2 card draw cards I mentioned before. A card like Perception Plus that costs 0 energy and draws 2 cards. Do you realize what this means? Yup, this is what we in the deck building business call an infinite. Let me explain on this Capacity, who's a full 20 levels higher than us. By playing Consume on repeat in combination with Perception, we can create both infinite energy and infinite card draw. Perception draws us 2 cards, Consume discards those 2 cards, and we gain 2 energy. We can essentially do this forever, picking up tons of charges all along the way, and then finish off any enemy in a single hit. And since I've invested all of my level up points into speed, as opposed to evenly distributing them, I will always be faster than the opponent, meaning I always go first. Do you know what this means? Do you understand what's happening here? I'm unstoppable. Truly and unequivocally unstoppable. I proceed to devour every obstacle in front of me. I'm level 21, and I challenge a level 51 Guardian and kill him in one turn. He doesn't even get the chance to attack. Okay, now with all the dramatics, it might sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm seriously not. This combo makes me literally impossible to kill. No matter how strong the enemy is, I will win, no matter what. In fact, they won't even get the chance to attack. I cannot lose any fight. Every fight ends up just becoming an endless slog of clicking cards. My victory is not just certain, it's inevitable. Now, if you watch my last 2 Moonstone Island videos, you know that through making all these videos on Moonstone Island, I've actually become pretty close with the devs who make it. So I told Sandy, the head developer, that card draw cards were game-breakingly good. So he took my note and decided to change them all to cost more. But on my file, I had already completed over half of the game's dungeons in just 10 days using these overpowered cards. And what's the fun in that? So what did I do? Did I just take the cards out of my deck? Did I just brush it off and continue anyway? Nope! I started my playthrough all the way back at the beginning again. Yup, that's right. I started all the way back at day 1. This time vowing not to pick any of the card draw cards to make it fair. So I'm gonna fly through these first couple days since pretty much everything I do in them was exactly the same. I spawn back in, talk to the old man, crash my broom, get the copper ore, pick up the warp whistle, yada yada yada. On day 2, I once again beat the first dungeon, but at the end of the night, are you kidding me? Right next to my bed? On day 3, pretty much everything is the same, except I craft a ton of furnaces to get our ore production started early. That way we can get our tool upgrades as soon as possible. We go ahead and complete dungeons as normal, but I start selling various junk I find for a little extra gold. And on day 4, I realize a very easy way to make cash. You see, in this game, there are 6 different types of islands: forest, beach, poison, electric, fire, and dark, each with their own unique crops. What you're supposed to do is go to each island type, cut the available crops down with your scythe, get seeds, and bring those seeds back to the botanist, who will make those seeds available for you to buy at the store. However, since I'm furiously searching for dungeons, I end up going to so many different islands. Because of this, it's very easy for me to just pick up all of each island's crops before quickly leaving for the next one. Then I can just sell all these crops I forage without needing to farm them at all. This quickly lets me generate huge amounts of income. On day 5, I craft my glider once again and use my newfound money to upgrade my hammer to the copper hammer at the blacksmith. And after that, I go around looking for dungeons like usual. Even though I don't have the insane card draw that I did last time, charge and shock is more than enough to take me through most guardian fights. And with that, I end day 5 with 5 dungeons completed. On day 6, I use all the money and ore I've been collecting to upgrade my axe twice all the way to the iron tier. I do have to sell off 2 moonstones to afford it, but hey, new shiny axe give me lots of dopamine. I cleared a couple dungeons, and along the way I run into my mortal enemy, Marcia, but get through it by imagining the pure joy I would get if she was run over by a car. I also had a card called Turn It Up to my deck, which triples my charge. Surely this will not be insanely overpowered and archetype defining. That would be crazy. And with that, we close out day 6 with 7 dungeons cleared. Day 7 is more the same as I clear out even more dungeons. I even got really lucky and happened to get a teleport to a dungeon that would otherwise require me to have ladder plants. Here, the Guardian is a level 36, which should be pretty difficult for my level 21B to take out. But before this fight, I discovered something insane. If you click that red button under my video that says subscribe, you'll get informed whenever I upload a new video. And that really helps out my channel a lot. But the actual thing that I find that's insane is that charge doesn't just give you a flat 3 charge. It scales based off your power stat. So by just investing a couple points into the power stat, we can get our charge to do 6. Then we can use Turn It Up to triple that, and oh my god, he's dead already, stop it! Using this, I'm actually able to set a personal record of mine and clear 4 dungeons in a single day, putting us all the way at 11 completed. I also realized that in every chest I've been opening, I've been getting these concoctions. You're supposed to feed these to your spirits to up various stats of theirs for a full day. However, I only ever really need to improve my speed stats, so I can just sell them all, and they sell for 300 a pop, which makes us quite a bit of money. And with that, we close out day 7 and finally catch up to my previous save. So far, I've played the game for 9 hours, and we're on day 8. I seriously gotta up my pace a little bit. On day 8, I've accumulated so much money from all my little tricks and moonstones from all my island hopping that I'm able to upgrade my scythe to the copper tier, my hammer to the iron tier, and upgrade my axe to the max at the moonstone tier. This costs 10,000 golds, but I need so much wood for this run that the time investment alone will be worth it. Also, it's fun to flex that I've got a fully upgraded axe on day 8. I also give Farah the blacksmith a single stone, and she loves it. This proving that contrary to what this incel subreddit thinks, women are not all that complicated. complicated. I take this time to check out the NPCs, as I realize that 40% of my audience is horny bisexuals, and they haven't been entertained nearly this entire video. First, we have Paolo, who runs the carpentry shop, then we have Rowan, who runs the general shop, who I can't for some reason find extremely attractive. Next up, we have our resident mean girl character, Gianna, who runs the botany shop with Ophelia, who, if I'm being honest, even 50 hours into my playthrough, I couldn't think of one notable thing about her, and I still forget her name. After our town tour, I go back to my house, craft 2 sprinklers, and place down a couple seeds. I don't really need the crops or the money, just kind of seemed like a fun thing to do. I also sell all my remaining seeds to work towards the quest of selling all seed types to the botanists, with me having about half of the ones I need. After that, I get back up to the point I was before in the spring temple, and I test my wand to see if it's any good at growing my new crops. It's not. After that, I find another dungeon on Electrical Island and easily clear it with my attack doing 30 damage 6 times. On day 9, I try to solve the mystery of the missing clay, as I have no idea how to obtain it. I thought it might be like Harvest Moon, where you have to hoe around underground, but no dice. It's imperative that I find clay before spring ends, as otherwise we'll be locked out of the spring temple, so I make it my goal to prioritize that. While I'm down here though, I collect a ton of copper and iron for later. Then I look around a bit more and find a dungeon on a fire island. The Guardian here is level 51, and despite me doing over 400 damage to him with one card, his towering 700 health allows him to survive. But it's just one attack. What's the worst that could happen? That was really close to being really bad. Luckily, after that, I'm able to take him out and secure my victory. On day 10, I craft a ton more furnaces to increase my ore output, upgrade my hoe to copper, and then get right back to work searching for dungeons. I find one on a poison island, make it to the end, and oh, well, that does not look right. I try seeing if I can fly through the wall, and no, that's a real wall right there. I don't know if this was intentional or a glitch, but regardless, I find another passageway on the right side that brings me to the Guardian and lets me take it out. After that, I head down to find another dungeon on a fire island. Inside the dungeon, you're given 2 paths. One with a simple puzzle and one with a tough enemy. And clearly, the rewards from the enemy have to be better. And who cares how tough they are? I haven't lost a single battle this entire run. On day 11, I go back inside the dungeon, and this time only one enemy spawns, so I can easily take them out. However, on the second mini-boss, oh no. But this was when I discovered a little exploit. You see, in leveling up my combat skill, I got a perk that always gives me a 100% chance to flee a battle. And since my speed stat is so high, I always go first. And while this seems alright, here's the kicker. Every time you enter a fight in Moonstone Island, the enemy team is re-rolled, meaning that I can just repeatedly flee away from the battle as many times as I want until the enemy team is something a little easier, like this lowly who I can take out no problem. I'll definitely be using this the rest of the run, and surely the rewards for doing the harder path will be insane. So that was a colossal waste of time. Irregardless, I take out the Guardian, which marks the 15th dungeon, meaning I'm halfway done with all these. After that, I clear out one more dungeon for the day, and then I head home. On day 12, I head to the blacksmith and get my final Moonstone upgrade on my hammer, upgrade my watering can to copper, and my scythe all the way to iron. After that, I go searching for a while until I find a pretty high level one on an electrical island. And this one is another gauntlet dungeon. Remember, I said to put that down in your notebook? Well, now's the time to take it back out. To understand why I hate the gauntlet dungeon, first we have to take a look at all the other dungeons. They're these fun little NES Zelda style dungeons that are often mazes, have little puzzles to complete, and secrets to find to unlock hidden chests. I actually find them pretty fun. The gauntlet dungeons, on the other hand, it's just one long corridor where you walk up to a bunch of enemies and fight them. And it's not even like there's just 1 or 2 of these guys. Oh no, there's a lot of them in a row. Though during this dungeon, I kid you not, I run into another holographic cumulo. And because this one is so high level, I'm also unable to tame it, making me just so happen to get a 0.2% chance twice, and then just have to kill them anyway. After wiping the tears away from my eyes for the second time in this 100 days video, I go on to finish the dungeon with relative ease. By this point, I've explored so much of the map that finding new islands and dungeons comes a lot slower. In fact, a lot of the time I have to go out of my way to search for them, so finding the remaining ones is definitely going to be a struggle. Besides that, the only big problem I'm facing is that I'm running into a lot of fire islands now, and even with all this energy I've earned, they still do an absolute number on my stamina, making some of these larger ones one's pretty hard to explore. As such, it takes me until the end of the night to find the next one and stomp it. After that, I head home, throw my moonstones in the furnace, sell a bunch of stuff, and hit the sack. On day 13, I set my eyes on the second big goal of this playthrough, tame every spirit. As such, I'm gonna need something called a spirit barn to house them all. I remember that Paolo was selling something called a big spirit barn, so I spent all morning getting all the wood required for the big spirit barn, which my new moonstone axe helps a ton with. Then I come back to Paolo with the materials, but when I go to purchase the big spirit barn, it says I need a spirit barn. Well, that's what I'm trying to do, Paolo. If you can make a big spirit barn, why can't you just make a normal one for me? Lost on what to do, I remember I had a quest to visit the professor, so I head on over to his tower. Turns out the professor is this guy named Zed. He tells me he wants to study Pokemon, but he's too afraid to do it himself, so we should fill out the pages of our Pokedex and bring it back to him here. I show him all the research on all the spirits I've seen this far, and he gives me 9,000 gold. And he said he'll send me the blueprints to the spirit barn tomorrow. This makes Zed not only my favorite villager, but also the only person I see holding any value on this entire island. As a thank you, I give him one of my highly sought after spirit eggs, to which he enjoys less than when I gave Farah a rock last week. I take my new Zed money and immediately blow on a moonstone scythe, making all the tools fully upgraded except my hoe and watering can. As even though this is technically a farming game, I haven't really done that much farming. After all the excitement of the morning, I go on to look for more dungeons, and on the way, I encounter the Magic Man. I accidentally clicked give memory fragments, as I forgot that I had 15. He placed them all inside the mirror and asked me if I want to step inside.
You want to step into the mirror? Yeah, sure, why the hell not? What the actual is going on? What is this? What is this? What's going on? Huh? What the Mother 3 sequence? What the hell's going on? No, what do I do? Oh, I put all the seals there for sure. Okay. There's definitely 4 seals, 1 for each season. I'm supposed to bring it here.
But in the time I've been staying there, I've lost 150 energy, so I decide to skedaddle and come back here once I have those precious seals. I come across this island that just has to be a reference to Wario, and then right before bed, have this little level 36 guardian as a midnight snack. But it's super late in the night, so to avoid passing out, I try to prep my warp whistle and my hotbar. That way I can warp home right after getting the Ondo tree. Smart plan, right?
Oh no. Oh, I myself on that. I can't even be mad.
Guess I'm going back there tomorrow. I gotta level up in foraging and decide to invest in Link to the Grass, which will give me a chance to pick up coins when I scythe grass. This is pretty lame, but it unlocks the path to some other pretty cool skills. We get a letter from Paolo that asks us to pair them up with a spirit with oak in their name, which I'll be sure to look out for. Zed also sends us a letter giving us spirit lenses that will let us see a spirit's level in the overworld. But he doesn't send the spirit barn recipe he specifically said he was going to. I take a look at my quest, and it turns out that it wasn't a glitch, bug, or Zed being rude. Turns out I just sped past the dialogue, and I didn't read that he wants us to tame a level 5 spirit first. So on my way back to the dungeon I messed up last night, I decided to tame this little sand castle bucket. The way taming spirits works in this game is you feed them a crop that has a certain amount of tame. This fills up the blue heart to the right of their health bar. Once you fill the heart completely green, the game rolls to see if you've caught the spirit or not. If you fail the roll, they go back down to half tame. Luckily, I only failed the tame once, and I'm able to add Sand Crashel to the team. Once I've tamed him, it looks like I've completed that part of the quest for Dr. Zed, so I immediately release Sand Crashel back into the wild. Sorry, Sand Crashel, you'd only slow down the bee train. After quickly clobbering a level 51 guardian, I move on to another fire dungeon that I found. The gimmick of this dungeon is that once you enter a room, these spiky vines will appear behind you, and they won't go away until you defeat the enemy in the center. But I try and outsmart the system. I go to the leftmost open room, and once I see vines starting to grow, I quickly dart out of the room before I can get trapped inside. I then go on to explore every other room in the dungeon and realize that that original left room has to be the correct way to go. However, when I left the room, the vines grew with me on the other side of them, and I can't make them go away until I defeat the spirit in the center. But I can't defeat the spirit in the center unless I get past the vines. See the predicament I'm in here now? I decide to warp home and hope that the vines will just have despawned by tomorrow. On day 15, while waiting for Professor Zed to open up, I fumble around on nearby islands and end up recruiting this Burgloon. Then once Zed opens, I bring him my research, completing his quest. But my big goal of today is to get started with farming. Not for any monetary reasons. Oh no, far from it. I want to start planting a ton of fire flowers, since these can be used to tame spirits. First, I head over to the general store to buy a bunch of fire flower seeds, and after that, I head to the blacksmith to upgrade my hoe and watering can to the iron level. I craft a bunch of sprinklers from my ore reserves and get the seeds into the ground. That night, I head over to a neighboring island and tame myself a fluff ox and a papus. That way, when I get my spirit barn tomorrow, I can immediately place them inside. Then I go home to go sleep in my bed and... come on! On day 16, Zed finally sends me the spirit barn recipe, and after quickly gathering some much needed materials, materials, I place it down next to my house. I craft a bunch of spirit stalls, which are required for a new spirit to move in, and send Pappas and Fluffox there. Unfortunately, spirit stalls are extremely expensive to craft, so I'm gonna need to start gathering a lot of wood and a ton of fiber if I want to have all the spirits in the game. I find my 20th dungeon and blast through it. I'm probably gonna stop mentioning when I do these from now on because I do one pretty much every single day and nothing really happens in them besides me running to the end and annihilating the boss. I recruit another sand crashel, but this one gets to go to the barn. I also finally go back and collect the Ondo tree from that dungeon I warped away from. On day 17, I get a letter from Zed that says he wants me to collect spirit poop by taking care of spirits in the spirit barn. And it looks like Sand Crashell's already pooped out a piece of sea glass, which I don't even want to think about the logistics of. It's probably not necessary yet, but I spend the day gathering resources to turn my spirit barn into a big spirit barn, letting me house up to 60 spirits. I also head to the fishing shop for the first time and meet Tobin. He asked me to help him find the legendary fish of these islands and gives me a free fishing rod. It looks like these fish are island type specific as opposed to season specific, so I decided to put a pin in this for now. After that, I managed to tame myself a cool slime and yeah, that's what he is. This is actually Moonstone Island's crossover with Terraria, which that's pretty cool. Get it? Cool slime. I also recruit this hopstraw and this mumbleweed. After looking around this Earth Island for a little longer, I actually get a pretty rare event, a psychic storm. You see, when I said there were 6 types of islands before, this was kind of true. Every night of the 100 islands in the game, one of them will randomly have a psychic storm and turn into a psychic island. During a psychic storm, the island will spawn crops that are much better than the ones you'd normally find on the island, and also spawn rare psychic spirits. So I encounter this cute little guy named Pasho. You know, Pasho, you're pretty cute. If capacity wasn't so strong, I might actually think about adding you to the team. I also managed to recruit Dusty the Earth Spirit and Magicat the Psychic Spirit, though I guess I had no more room in my spirit bomb for her, so I'm forced to set her free. When I get home, I make sure to place down some more spirit stalls so that does not happen again. That night, I get a level up in spirits, meaning I can now tame spirits all the way up to level 30, and I get Wood Thumb, which means trees will now drop 20% more wood. Nice. On day 18, it looks like some of my Earth Spirits have dropped some clay, finally giving me the last offering I need for the Spring Temple.
I finally made it. What the hell is going on? Oh my god, Wispy Woods! What are you doing here? I feel so bad. I'm about to... Oh, maybe I won't. Maybe I'm not about to. Oh, I can't attack the guy until I attack these little guys? Okay, that's kind of interesting. This is going to do 54 damage. You're dead. Okay, brother. Oh no, poor guy. He's weak to electric. Still can't do anything, I guess? Okay. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go sicko mode on you, man. You've been smited by God. Now laugh. Whoa! That PNG is large. Wait, could I have recruited that guy? Probably not. First seal, easy dub.
With my first seal obtained and Wildwood defeated, Long Log can now be found in the wild. So I tame one from a neighboring island and send him straight to the barn. I make sure to clear the island for lots of fiber, as every spirit in my barn needs 1 piece of fiber every single day or they'll run away. And that night, I actually get my final combat skill point. Yep, we've already completely maxed out the combat stat, all thanks to our beautiful little bee. On day 19, I search for more dungeons, and along the way, I recruit a Cumulo. Though unfortunately, he's just some stupid yellow-looking one. I also grab another Burgloon, with this one able to go to the barn. After that, I go back to the dungeon from before that the vines trapped me out of. And I notice that now there are also vines blocking off the entrance. I try just about everything to get inside, including whatever I was doing here. I try anything and everything I can think of before realizing I should probably just try out my axe. And that works perfectly, because, you know, axes cut plants. It feels pretty obvious now that I think about it. On day 20, I get a letter from Zed, thanking me for taming my first psychic spirit, and he talks about some gland on their forehead that allows them to secrete something. One of my fire spirit eggs hatched last night and was holding this cute little cactus guy. Aw, just look at him move. The excitement of my prickly friend leads me to incubate the rest of the eggs I found as well, though it's doubtful they'll live up to my best friend Cactus. I head to Zed for my next task, and he wants to see a spirit that I hatched myself. Wow, that is extremely convenient. After immediately turning that quest in, I go around looking for the last dungeons, but along the way I encounter a poison island where I managed to tame Radlad, who's actually Moonstone Island's collab with Ooblets, and also Ribbite, who I'm almost positive was based off of those old dinosaur back scratchers. I clear the island's dungeon and recruit Broodbrain, who I adore. He looks so stupid. And also Emo Shroom, who I'm almost positive was named Mini Shroom in the demo. Weird name change. On day 21, I get a letter from Tobin the fisherman, and he asked me to bring him a spirit that has a snorkel on it. Can't possibly be too many of those around here. And wow, look at our spirit bar now. It's really starting to come together. Cumulo also drops his first spirit poop in Sparks, which by combining with 3 moonstone ingots allows me to craft the Charm of Electric Resistance, meaning I'll no longer take any damage on electric islands. I definitely want to get one of these for fire islands as soon as possible, so here's hoping my prickly little lad puts out soon. I just realized how that sounds. A ton of my fire flowers bloomed today, so I go over there and pick those so that I can recruit any future spirits that I find. Zed sends me a letter congratulating me for hatching my first spirit and sends me the crafting recipe for a moongrass spirit stall, which would allow my spirits to be auto-fed. That would be nice, but costing an entire moonstone is a high asking price for something that normally costs me 1 piece of fiber and 7 seconds of my time. At the end of the day, I rank up in spirits, which now allows me to tame ones up to level 40. I also max out my archaeology skill, gaining 1 skill that makes ingots sell for 10% more, and then another that allows me to blow up adjacent rocks in the mines. Lastly, I level up in agriculture, and I put the point into Lucky Landscaper, which gives crops a 50% chance to drop seeds when picked up. Really useful when most of the farming I do in this game is really just foraging. I start this morning like I do every other morning by feeding all my spirits to make sure they don't run away. A poison spirit finally actually gave me their drop, so I crafted the armor of poison resistance, meaning I can freely explore them now as well. I go over to turn my spirit research into Zed, and he gives me a new quest to try killing one of the high-level dark spirits. Should be a challenge, but I'm up for it. My goal for this last stretch of spring is to try and complete all of the dungeons before the end of the seasons. So to do that, I'm gonna have to clear the entire map, so I spend the next couple days just finishing out the map. I managed to complete 2 dungeons today, put me at 26 of 30, and then come home to process a bunch of ore that I'd picked up. Day 23 is pretty uneventful, explore for more dungeons, and complete a tough one on a fire island. I do manage to recruit a level 33 Flambit though, building out one of my first real fire spirits. He's pretty tough to tame, but with my large stockpile of fire flowers by this point, he proves to be no real issue. On day 24, a ton of spirit eggs I was incubating my barn finally hatched, but unfortunately they're all duplicate spirits, so they must all be released. My goal for this playthrough is to tame every spirit, not to create an orphanage where spirit leeches just eat all my precious fiber. Also, my prickly little friend finally manages to make his first ever fireball, so I'm able to craft 100% fire resistance armor. I've been able to pick up so many moonstones exploring all the islands that even the cost of 9 moonstones is no real issue for me. On day 25, a new batch of spirit eggs hatch, and these prove to be much more fruitful, and I get 2 completely new spirits, Snapplant and Sparky. And I like Snapplant a lot. He looks juicy. I go over to Sparky's moves though, and interesting stuff. With those hatched, I decide to incubate a new batch of eggs, with these mostly being fire spirits. In my dungeon exploration today, I come across a dark island, so I decide that now would be a good time to take on Zed's Banish quest. I come across Cariote, who stands at a staggering level 56 and a hearty 290 HP, making him one of the, and he's dead. Good try, Cariote. I also take this time to pick up the last seeds that I need for the Spring Seed Seeker quest, Bloodroot and Spiritbane seeds. I come across the Dark Rift from last time and try placing my Earth Seal on one of the pedestals. This works, and I'm able to shrink the size of the gaping hole, which is kinda like, you know what? I'm not even gonna make a joke here. It's way too easy, and everyone's done it before. Kinda like your mom. After another day of uneventful island searching, I head to bed. I now only need to find 2 more dungeons, so I make it my complete focus to try and find them in these last 3 days. Before we head out though, I make sure to feed my spirits and turn in the Spring Seed Seeker quest, to which I get 3,000 gold. How do you guys even afford that? You're like the worst shop on this entire island. I also make sure to turn in my research to Zed about finally defeating a dark spirit. After that, the day is just more of clearing out my map. On day 27, I get a letter from Zed congratulating me on banishing the dark spirit, though I don't think he'd be so impressed if he saw the embarrassment of the fight they put up. As a thank you, he gives me the crafting recipe for the spirit brush, which I can use on my spirits to make them happier. Unfortunately, my spirits are only meant to serve as hollow resource producing husks, and I could care less if they feel any sort of pleasure or joy, so I don't think I'll be using this that much. I also harvest the last of my fire flowers, putting me well over 100 of the suckers, which should help me with taming for a while. And with nearly my entire map explored by this point, I decide it's time to start exploring some of the already discovered islands to see if it's possible that I missed one while I was exploring. This seems more than possible, as I usually do what my partner calls a man look, meaning that if I cannot find it in the first 12 seconds, I immediately lose all object permanence. I start this journey by venturing deep into the dreaded Maze Island. I've been avoiding exploring this island because it caused me so much pain in the demo, and while I don't see the dungeon in the normal spot, the devs have moved things before just to frustrate me, so it seems possible. Unfortunately, the island seems completely vacant, so I decide to just warp whistle out of there. I managed to tame the fire spirit Sign this fire snake, and I send it to my barn. That night, I managed to level up my spirit skill to allow me to tame spirits of any level. I also upgrade my crop skills to make them sell for an extra 20%. It's the last day of spring, and the magic man asked me to recruit him a fish bow, just furthering proof why he might be the best character in this game. As such, when I run into him today, I decide to try flirting with him. You know, I never really was a fan of the Magic Man. I run into a Cariote today, so I decide to try taming him. But after seeing that my Fire Flower only gave that much tame, and the fact that his attack has a big scary red outline on it, I decide it's probably best to just flee. If I'm gonna start seriously recruiting spirits, I'm gonna need to invest in a spirit that has way more health and armor. However, that sounds like a lot of work. So what I do instead is just repeatedly run into a dark spirit and run away until it's doing an attack that won't kill me. From there, I can spend 2 turns feeding it flowers. This strategy works like a charm, and I'm able to tame my first dark spirit, Archaea, which, you know, now that I'm looking at it, the dark spirits in this game are a bit of a tonal shift. Like, I'm walking around with this cute little bee and also a godless being that uses despair like a Jeep uses gasoline. At midnight, I found that I had been, in fact, doing a man look, as this island that I thought I had completely explored had a dungeon hiding on it in absolute plain sight. I place down a ladder crop, grow it with my wand, and enter my second to last dungeon. Unfortunately, by this point, it was much too late in the night, and I end up accidentally passing out while trying to glide through the air in my balloon. And with that, our first season of Moonstone Island comes to a very unceremonious end. It's day 29 and the first day of summer, and I'm starting off on a great foot on some random island, waking up 3 hours late. I get a letter in the mail from my mother asking me to send her a concoction, so I make sure to note that for later. Before we get started on all the summer festivities, I decide to go ahead and finish the dungeon I started last night. And after easily plowing through, I've got but 1 dungeon remaining. But you know, we've spent enough time dungeon searching, now it's time for summer things. I go around to each island type gathering the seeds from each of the different crops. Like I said, each island has 2 special crops per season. So first I grab Erden Leaf and an Umbrella Shroom from the Poison Island, then Zap Plant and a Stunflower from the Electrical Island, a Pinwheel Flower, Moss Ball, and a Beach Peach from the Forest Islands, and a Wing Fruit and a Prickly Plant from the Dark Islands. Along the way, I happen to run to Magic Island, and I decide to talk to him as I think marrying an all-powerful wizard could, you know, be kind of fun. I joke with him twice, which he hates, but that's to be expected because I'm a YouTuber. Then I gift him a Fire Flower, to which he barely likes and says, "Yum, this is gonna be quite the uphill battle." After leaving the Magic Man's hut, I make my way off the Dark Island and towards a Fire Island to collect the last of my crops. However, along the way, I run into a dark spirit I've never seen before, a Wolfbane. And I mean, look at this guy, look at him! I had to try recruiting him. First, I managed to take out the Cariote easily, and while it would have been easy to just stun the wolf and then stuff him with Fire Flowers while he recovers, unfortunately, you cannot feed a spirit while it's dizzy. So I need to be able to survive long enough to recruit him. His first attack does about half my health, and my 3 Fire Flowers barely fill his tame bar. I probably should run away at this point, but hey, I've never seen this little guy before. What if I never see him again? Then the wolf knocks me down to just 3 health. Now I should really leave, but instead I feed him more Fire Flowers, which doesn't even fill the tame heart. Then the wolf comes and attacks me, but I come back to life with my recharge ability. But finally, I can fill him with enough flowers to tame him, and uh-oh. And for the second day in a row, we end up passing out. Summer's off to a pretty rough start. I head to a Fire Island and get the last of my seeds, but for some reason, it's completely devoid of any crops. So I head to a second one and grab myself Flame Root and Hot Air Fruit. With all the summer crops acquired, I warp home and sell them all to the botanist so I can start buying them from the shop. Though I guess I must have lost the Zap Plant and Wing Fruit seeds along the way, so I'll have to make sure to go back and pick those up. I got a letter from Quill that gives me a hint on some people's favorite gifts. So on my way home, I decide to stop by the bar and hand Asano a Fire Flower, and then immediately lose all those points by telling some horrible jokes. I head home and realize that since I passed out last night, I never fed my spirits, so a bunch of them ran away, like Flambit, Sparky, and a couple others who were a lot less cool. After feeding my spirits, I head over to the Summer Temple and place in the required Beach Peach and Pinwheel Flower, allowing me access inside. This one's themed around water spirits, with the dungeon enemy being Dropple, whom I don't think I can express how much I love this guy. He's literally just a drop of water with a smile, but he's cool, okay? With Dropple recruited, we gain access to our Summer Temple reward, the Flippers. These allow us to finally swim in water, so no more bridges for us. This should make exploring way easier. The next items we need are a lantern and a jewelfish, which for the first time, I have no clue what either of these items are, as I haven't done any fishing and I don't even know what a lantern is. I go and craft a decoration station, which is normally reserved for decorations, so I never thought to craft it. But it turns out that the lantern is actually a recipe in there, and all I need now is iron ingots, which I have, and ash, which, okay, now we gotta figure out what ash is. So on my way back home, I actually run into a Psychic Storm, so I decided to stick around for a while as I need to grab the Psychic Island exclusive crops. While waiting around for them though, I happened to run into an Oaken, which we actually got a letter about giving to Paulo ages ago if you remember, so it's about time we finally fulfill that. After that, we pick up the Psychic Island exclusive Tiny Flower and Eyeberry, which has just got to be the scariest crop I've seen in my entire life. Like, are they real eyes? Do they just look like eyes? Are they following me? Am I in danger? I decided to go home, but since we already used the warp whistle today, I just have to get there manually, and after waking up late for the third day in a row, our mom sends us a letter thanking us for sending the concoction, which I forgot to tell you guys I did, and she gives us the recipe to craft an alchemy lab, meaning we can now craft our own concoctions. After feeding my spirits, I make sure to give my Eureka a brush as I want her to produce her dark type poop as quickly as possible. That way I can finally make dark typed armor. I go to change out my furnaces and realize that on the right hand side it says wood can be placed in there, which I presume makes ash, so I slap that in there. While that finishes cooking, I go and give the Oaken I tamed to Paulo, who loves it. And as a thank you, they give me the crafting recipe to the loom. This looks like something decorating related, so I'll be sure to never craft that and forget this interaction ever happened. Thanks, Paulo. With my wood finished in the furnace, I'm able to craft a lantern. I also craft that alchemy table to try making those concoctions. Basically, this table allows you to combine the effects of two different crops. For example, if I combine a tiny flower, which gives 50 EXP, and a hot air fruit, which gives 50 EXP, to make a concoction, that gives 100 EXP. Concoctions are super useful in trying to give insane buffs to your spirits and also tame them quickly. However, to make concoctions, you need glass bottles, and to make glass bottles, you need sea glass. So I take the rest of my day to try and go tame some more water spirits for the sea glass. I managed to tame 5 new water spirits tonight in Starcy, Snorko, Claudio, Floatle, and Octopup. Soon after, I also see a Psychic Island, so I take a stop there and encounter 2 new spirits as well, Taro and Looney-Lid, both of whom I'm lucky enough to tame. Starcy actually has an ability that makes spirits 20% easier to tame, so having him on the squad, even just briefly, helps out a ton. After getting those to the spirit barn, it's pretty late, so I decide to warp home, only to pass out again. Oh my god, I hate summer. On day 32, I head over to my spirit barn and notice a bunch of spirits I recruited from last night just weren't there, despite every single stall having food in it. I was looking forward to that cute little deer too. After this depressing revelation, I decide to finally buy myself a fishing rod from Tobin at the fishing store. I also drop off the spirit he requested, Snorko, to him, to which he seems happy with and starts stocking a new type of fishing lure that I'll be sure to never use. I cast out my line to reel in my first ever fish. The way fishing works in this game is it follows your mouse in this little circle, and the more time you keep the little target on top of the fish, the more this green circle fills up. This minigame is pretty easy, but it's like stimulating enough to be hard. I get a hunch that the jewelfish is going to be found on a water island, seeing as the entire summer temple is water themed. After sitting there and fishing for a while, a fishboat actually spawns in who I tame. But then, suddenly, as if it were divine intervention, I run into the magic man who actually requested I give him a fishboat, so it kind of works out perfectly and I can give it to him straight away. On day 33, I decide to do something insane. Today, I'm actually going to farm in this farming game. Yeah, I know, preposterous, right? I decide to grow a bunch of eyeberries, as they have an insane markup at like 168 gold per crop, and they grow in like 6 days, which does not seem balanced at all, but hey, what do I know? I've also got so much copper and iron now that making sprinklers is not an issue at all, so I can easily have that all set up. I spend the rest of the day fishing, and eventually I'm able to fish up the jewelfish. I head straight over to the summer temple and complete the offering. After a short little swim up the waterfall, I see the next offering I need is a moonstone and sea glass, which I'll be sure to bring back tomorrow. The next morning, my mom sends me a letter saying she needs a concoction with -1 vitality, plus 20 tame, and any amount of stamina, which is actually impossible to make with the crops we have currently. So I decide to send her one with all of those perks and also -2 power. No one's ever been punished for being an overachiever, right? I go back to the water temple, now equipped with my moonstone and sea glass, and finally encounter this temple's boss.
Oh, Big Goopy.
However, despite his cute paper boat hat, Big Goopy was only level 20 and had but 200 health. Me, on the other hand, I fired up a Shock Plus that does 1008 damage on the first turn. Sorry, Big Goopy. But with Big Goopy gone, we collect our second seal, the Water Seal. And after our triumphant victory, I head to a poison island and manage to tame this cute little frog named Tattle. On day 35, I get a letter from Gianna saying that she wants a spirit that looks like her? What kind of request is that? What do I look like, Shao Tucker? After placing a bunch more spirit stalls in my barn, I decide that it's time to start the search for the game's last dungeon. While searching, I find a Marcia, whom I tame despite hoping that her entire species one day receives divine punishment. It's day 36 and I'm running out of places to look at this point. I mean, look at my map. As I'm looking though, I make sure to grab any relic arches that I see, as the new season refreshed them all, and I have plans for a new team member very soon. Finally, on day 37, after weeks of looking, something amazing happens.
Ah! Yeah.
After quickly making my way through, I come to the final guardian.
A joke, right? Oh no, he's actually hurt and I forgot to heal. Crap. Wait, hold on. Okay, it definitely didn't matter.
And with that, I had done it. One of the major playthrough goals completed on day 37. And more importantly, no more running around like a chicken with my head cut off, hoping for a stupid dungeon. Why is there no island compass in this game? Despite all my happiness, on my way home, I noticed something. Something that unsettles me to my very core.
Oh, Shock Plus costs 2 now. Oh. The mid-game nerf.
Yes, the very crux, the very cornerstone of my capacity strategy has been nerfed. And the culprit is one of the most twisted, edgy, and overall handsome people on the planet. That's right, this call is coming from inside of the house. You see, I care about this game a lot, so whenever I'd find little bugs or exploits, I would just message them over to the dev team. And the biggest complaint I told them about was just how overpowered Charge and Shock was. That these 2 cards basically trivialized the entire game. And they actually listened. But Shock costing 2 was far from enough to dismantle my entire strategy. So I just pushed it off and went on with my day. On day 38, I realized my overachieving concoction did not count towards my mother's quest. So I tried looking through my remaining materials, and yet still there is no combination that makes -1 vitality and +20 tame. I'm beyond confused. I decided that today I should actually start focusing on farming now, as I presume I'm gonna need a ton of endgame cash. I upgrade my hoe and watering can to the max level, putting all my tools now at max upgrades. I then craft 25 more sprinklers, place them down, and get prepped for a new harvest tomorrow. After that's done, I run into the magic man, who still doesn't like my gifts. Okay, I've had just about enough of you, man. I'm done trying to be your friend. While gathering up some ore, though, I managed to find a new spirit. Armbot is actually the reason I decided to try this game's demo in the first place, because I mean, I finally feel represented by the gaming community. This is also where I realized that each island type has special spirits that can only be caught underground. So I'm gonna need to go back to each island and make sure to get their special underground spirits. It's day 39 and all of my eye berries have grown. Unfortunately, there's nowhere in Moonstone Island where you can sell all of your crops day of, so I won't be able to funnel the money immediately back in. And even more unfortunate than that, I realized there is no hold down to buy feature in this game. Yes. Seriously. So for all 253 seeds that I want, I have to click for every single one. I know it doesn't seem that bad, but eventually it got to the point where I'd be buying thousands of seeds and my hand would actually start cramping from buying seeds. I get all my seeds into the ground, feed my spirits, and head to bed to see that I've made a nice 28,000 gold from my small eyeberry patch. On day 40, I reinvest my money into more eyeberries, put down some more sprinklers, and get them all into the ground. I also decided today that if I'm gonna have the ultimate playthrough of this game and do everything, I'm gonna have to get married. Unfortunately for this future partner, they will serve as nothing more than a simple completion mark, but I still have no idea who to choose. If I'm being honest, I found pretty much everyone in this game a complete snooze. I really think the ooification of cozy game NPCs is on full display here. I racked my brain for hours deciding on who to romance, and then it hit me. A couple weeks before Moonstone Island released, I received this influencer package from the Moonstone Island team, and inside was a letter from the mayor of Moonstone Island, Asano. It said, "Hello, Shawnee. I've been informed that you've issued a challenge to us inhabitants of Moonstone Island. Apparently, you've been going around saying things like, 'Oops, I broke the game, and I bet I can beat the entire game in just the demo.' Listen up, buddy. If you're gonna be like that, you gotta sit down and finish the whole dang thing. Bet you can't." And I just have one response to that. Who do you think you are? I will ruin you. I will get you to max hearts, make you fall in love with me, and then once you've finally thrown away all your insecurities, I will crush you. I start my rampage on Asano by giving her a beer and asking her on a date to the tavern, to which she accepts. Yes, Asano, trust me, believe me. I spend the rest of day 40 grinding out copper and iron ore to make some more sprinklers. I start off day 41 by giving Asano a morning coffee, though she doesn't like it as much as the morning beer I gave her yesterday. You know, maybe I won't need to do as much meddling as I thought. Her life already seems like it's on the rocks. Remembering that there are unique spirits inside of caves, I attempt to find a cave on a dark island now that I have the dark armor. While I'm busting open rocks, though, I find another wolf, and this time I successfully tame it. Yes! Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Maybe I could even add it to my team. You see, since Wolfbane is level 52, the game simulated all his level ups since level 1. And unlike a real person, the game can't choose skip and has a deck of nearly 60 cards. Like I said earlier, generally in deck building, it's best to have as slim of a deck as you possibly can, meaning that all dark spirits, by proxy of being high level, are basically completely unusable unless you can manage to remove like 40 cards from their deck. So sorry, Wolf, you're trash. Back to the Dark Island though, and I mined nearly every single rock on this island and still don't find a crawl space, so I'm convinced there are no caves on Dark Islands and decide to warp whistle home. I get home just in time for my date with Asano as well.
How do you keep yourself from working too much?
On day 42, I tame a new spirit called Brickhouse, and then tackle the mystery of my mother's concoction. I realized here that the numbers in concoctions could cancel each other out, so since the pinwheel flower gives +2 power, and the umbrella shroom gives -2 power, it evens out to +0, finally creating the desired potion. After that, I confirm my Dark Island theory by destroying every rock on another Dark Island, and oh my god, this took forever! And also tame myself a Cariote. Day 43, and I finally got the concoction right for my mother, and she sends me the crafting recipe for a cauldron, allowing me to craft some high-level potions. I start incubating a bunch of eggs I have in the spirit barn, and then look for a cave on an electrical island. You see, Zed sent me a letter asking me to pair him up with an electrical robot spirit, so my mind naturally went to Armbot. However, when I got there,
There's 2 of them!
I decided to just tame them both and see which one the evil little scientist prefers. On day 44, more eye berries are fully grown, so I get to harvesting them. Due to my perk that lets me get seeds from harvesting, I actually don't have to buy a vast majority of the seeds I need for the next batch either, which is really nice. Then I spend the rest of the night farming for moonstones. On day 45, I bring Zed Bulbot, and he says even though it's an electric robot, he doesn't like it because it doesn't have long arms. You're a bit of a freak, Zed. I go back to the barn and bring him Armbot instead, and he's overjoyed that after all these years of studying spirits, he finally has one of his own. Aw, so sweet. Zed, we're still not like cool, but like, I'll move you back over a tier. I finally look in the cauldron that my mom sent me and realize that I can craft a speed potion, which will give me an all-day 20% movement speed buff. And when combined with coffee, you can make it up to 30%. They're pretty expensive to make at the moment, so I make sure to craft and save one for a day that I really need to move fast. After harvesting my remaining eye fruit, I head over to the tavern to seduce Asano into security, you foolish little... What? You won't go to the hot spring with me? Well, now you've gone ahead and ruined my entire villain monologue. Now, you may have noticed for the past couple days, I've been harvesting tons of eye fruit, but I haven't been selling any of them. And why is that? Well, in addition to selling for a ton of cash, eye berries also have the added benefit of giving you 100 experience to your spirit. Yes, it's time to finally add another member to the team, and that member is Stardew. With most of the battles for the game already taken care of, my only real spirit objective is to tame all the spirits in the game. And like I said before, Capacity has been struggling to survive in these longer team battles due to our offensively optimized stat spread. Stardew has the special ability to make spirits 20% easier to tame, and starts at such a low level that I can optimize him however I wish. So with a quick trip over to a beach island, I can grab one and then stuff it with 236 eye berries, pushing him from level 3 all the way to level 29. From here, I completely min-max his moveset to be about survivability. His stat spread is put entirely into armor and vitality, making him really hard to kill, and all of his cards are based around a mechanic called regen, which makes you restore a certain amount of life after every turn. This should make taming spirits much easier. That night, I get a perk that increases my chances of waking up an hour earlier to 20%. I also sell the rest of my eye berries for a cool 40,000 gold. On day 46, I get a letter from my mother saying that it's our dad's birthday coming up, and she wants to get him an abundance potion. A potion that gives you 30% more wood and stone when cutting trees and smashing rocks. Which, like, that's his birthday gift? More work? This marriage is like a cruising ship headed for an iceberg. Regardless, I don't have the recipe for it yet, so I go to Palo and buy a random crafting recipe, to which they give me a completely useless potion. After that, I enact part 2 of my evil scheme today and ask Asano on another date to the hot springs. Foolish woman. I buy around 250 eyeberry seeds, which takes us a full 67 seconds of clicking, by the way. After that, I spend the day looking for caves, as they commonly hold crafting recipes, and I manage to find and tame a new poison spirit, Trunkle. On day 47, after doing my morning chores, I head to Palos again to try for the abundance potion, but to no avail. I also remember that Gianna asked for a spirit that looks like her weeks ago, and I'm only realizing now that it's supposed to be Emo Shroom. I mean, just look at them. They're basically spitting images of each other. I give that to her and grab some friendship points. On the other side of things, I give Cleo a single piece of grass, and apparently she has grass allergies and hates it, but what can you do? Can't appease everyone. After that, I find a new cave nearby, head inside, and we are immediately greeted by the crafting recipe for the abundance potion. Nice! I clear out the rest of the cave for copper and iron before heading home, sending the abundance potion to our mom and heading out to the hot spring for our steamy little date. The next day, I decide to make a wood gathering day as I'm seriously lacking and I have tons of wood needs, like more spirit stalls, the greenhouse, and spirit barn upgrades. So I chug a coffee, a speed potion, and my abundance potion and just deforest the ever-living crap out of a nearby island. I'm talking like Amazon rainforest level of deforestation here. I end off the day having collected 1,200 wood. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. On day 49, I get a letter from the cursed Asano asking me to pair her with a spirit. What stupid spirit could she possibly want? Wait, capacity? Like my capacity? Like my favorite spirit? Wow, great choice, Asano. Anyways, I harvest my first wave of eye berries and then go to spend a couple hours looking for Asano, you know, for the scheme and all. But despite my best efforts, I cannot find her, so instead I take the night and fiendishly grind out some more ore. It's day 50, meaning we're halfway to our goal. So far, we've completed all the dungeons like I hoped and discovered 58 out of 66 total spirits in the game, so I'd say we're way ahead of schedule. I'm feeling really good here. I spend the morning grilling up all of our new iron ore and then head over to Paulo's to add 3 new rooms to our house, as well as a second floor. Do I have plans to decorate it? No. Is it kind of just a flex that we have a bigger home than everyone else on this island? Absolutely. While I'm here, I also upgrade my spirit barn to the final level. I harvest my next wave of eye berries and then prepare for autumn by crafting 27 more sprinklers. I want to make sure that I have enough money in case any sort of gold-related obstacles come up, and also be able to grow some more crops I can tame, as I've completely run out of fire flowers by this point. On day 51, my house is big. Yay! Our last wave of eye berries also comes through, but instead of trying to squeeze through one more batch since they only take 5 days, I instead invest it all into tiny flower seeds. These plants give both EXP and tame. Like I was saying before, I've run out of taming crops, and the EXP is a good failsafe if I suddenly need to add another spirit to my team. I also ask Asano on another hot spring date, which I somehow successfully roll again, and give her over a capacity that I tamed. She said she's gonna call him Bartholomew, and as a thank you, I can have a single free cup of coffee every day, just because it means she gets to see us more often? I guess I'll just have to come here every day and take your stupid coffee. That'll get ya. After that, I head over to the Forest Island cave and find my first new spirit in a really long time, Punchy Pot. He gets tamed easily, meaning we're missing only one last Earth spirit. Surely, that will not come back to bite me in the butt. That night, I managed to level up my social stat and now have a 15% bonus to all social interactions. Now, if only I could get that skill in real life. On day 52, I get a letter from my mother asking me to make a concoction with just 12 power, and after looking over my crops for a while, I don't see a way to do it, meaning that we'll need a fall crop to do it, meaning that we're ahead of schedule, and they expected us to at least be in fall by now. Hell yeah. I take the rest of the day to try and round up some fire spirits, as I know I've never found any in a fire cave. I grab myself this wind-up toy car named Karki and then head down into a fire cave. After seeing that the rocks look way cooler in here than they do on any other island, I find the fire cave exclusive spirit Lucerna, and I think this thing is supposed to be cute, but he is just goddamn horrifying. Pretty much all the other fire spirits in this game are just red. Not Lucerna, though. He's a burning inferno in a vase. That night, I've got another hot tub scam. I mean, a date with Asano, where she asked me what I do when I'm stressed, which my real answer is play video games, which I'm doing right now, so you're kind of harsh in the mellow by asking. I spend most of day 53 looking for moonstones, as now that we're not plowing through dungeons, supply has sort of run out, and we need them for a ton of endgame items like the greenhouse. Since you can only really see moonstones at night, during the day, I use these treasure maps I find to dig up some secret chests on nearby islands. These chests also give tons of other goodies, which is a nice little surprise. At night, I go island to island searching for moonstones until I come across a psychic storm. I've only recruited 3 psychic spirits so far, so I decide to take the rest of the night to see if I can tame some more. And in my very first battle, I encounter 2 psychic spirits I've never seen before, my Newt and Magic Hat. Only problem is, I have barely any tame crops, but since psychic storms are pretty rare, I decide to use my emergency concoction I made that gives 110 tame in one swoop to tame the minute, and all the other scrounge of tame crops I can find on the Mysticat. I don't feel great about using my emergency tame potion, but hey, the day's pretty much over and I'm headed home. What are the chances I run into something? No! No. This is my worst nightmare. Yup, for the 3rd time we're seeing a holographic, and it's one of my favorite looking spirits, and we have nothing to tame it with. For a while, I just stare at it, refusing to accept that I'm truly in this situation once again. But then, I'm overcome with passion. All I have to do is stop by a nearby island, pick up some tame crops, make it back, and tame the spirit. Of course, that's what I tried to do, didn't even come close, and pass out in the middle of the air, losing my 3rd holographic spirit. And just to add insult to injury, when I get back to my farm on the next day, all the the tiny flowers I grew to tame spirits are ready for harvest, spitting salt in the wound of my lost Pasho. I spent pretty much the entire day picking all my tiny flowers and then head over to my date with Asano at the hot spring. With it being the last day of summer, I want to prepare for autumn, and there are two main things I want to get done as soon as possible. Collect all of the season seeds and finish up the fall temple. The sooner we unlock all the seed options, the sooner we can decide which crops to grow for the season, so that's priority number 1. I decide to craft a second house with hopes of placing it in a location central to some of the rare island types like dark fire and electrical islands. So after completing our daily chores, we make our way over to a new spot I scoped out at the bottom of the map. It's a beach island that's right next to a fire, dark, electric, and poison island. Upon arriving, I do a little island cleanup and place down our brand new beach house. Before the night ends, I realize that since this is the end of the season, all of the relic arches are going to reset, and it's in my best interest to grab them all now. With that done, I head back to my original home as I still need to feed my spirits tomorrow morning. It's the last day of summer, and Quill sends me a letter asking me to get him a cuddly fire spirit. Gonna need to get back to him on that. After feeding the pets, I head over to Asano's house to learn that I can now enter her room. Freaking nice, man. I mean, the plan is developing as it should. After that, I head back over to my beach home, take my abundance potion, and then completely clear all of the trees and rocks on this island. And with that cleared away, we head to bed, closing the door on summer. It's the first of fall, but we got no time to enjoy the pretty new scenery. We've got seeds to gather. First up, we head to a dark island to pick up a specter and skelly plant, as well as the water exclusive plants Fuzzball and Flag Flower. Then we head over to a water island and grab ourselves a squish and an applum. On the poison island, we get a grumpkin and a prickly plant, not to be confused with the spiky plant from last season. Do not do it. Electric cone and plantains from the electric island, and finally coalberry and heat plant from a fire island. I know most people probably don't care about what plants I'm picking up from what island, but the sprites and names are just so cute, I felt it was kind of important to shout it out. The only crops we're missing now are the 2 from psychic islands that we'll have to find at a later date. I make sure to sell all the ones we have for now though, so we can buy more of the seeds tomorrow. I run around searching for Asano for a bit, and then give her a gift and ask her on another date. By the end of this plan, I will surely become a full-on prune. I head over to a poison island to grab another grumpkin, as I can only find one before, and I know that I need them for the fall temple. I finally feed my starving spirits, and then end the night on some chest organization. On day 58, I decide to grow some specter plants because they both sell for a lot of money and also give a huge amount of tame, making them doubly useful as we head into this final season. They're also reharvestable, which will help out with my time management. I'm planting my seeds well into the night, but all I can think about is how excited I am for my date with Asano tonight. What started as an elaborate scheme has become a true admiration, where she shares my feelings of being overworked, constantly feeling run down, and feeling like you aren't able to tell people no. All feelings that I felt dominated by my entire life. I look forward to the time where we get to talk to each other, and I genuinely get excited for our just okay? What do you mean just okay? On day 59, I head over to the fall temple, with this one being focused on poison spirits. I place the spiky plant and the grumpkin into the holding chamber and head on inside. Oh my, little critters. It's a gun? No, it's definitely a boomerang. It's a gun. It's definitely a gun, guys. After clearing our first encounter, we gain access to our respective tool for fall, the boomerang. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, after picking this thing up, I never once use it again. I mean, seriously, how many situations could you think of in a farming game in which you'd need to use a boomerang? Like, bro, this ain't Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. After grabbing that, I see I need to bring over any concoction and 3 iron bars to proceed here. So I head home, pick those up, and then come straight back and place them in the altar. Then there are these little mushrooms I have to boomerang to get across and take it in, because this is the last time both you and I will ever see the boomerang. I head into the fight, and oh my god, they prepared for my arrival. But as opposed to every other fight in this game, I actually really struggle on this one. And I can't figure out why until I turn my brain on and realize something. My beloved charge has been nerfed. Yes, my notes to the dev must have finally gotten to them, as charge has been neutered from orbit. What used to be a reusable buff that scaled off your power is now a flat 3 charge, and it exhausts afterwards. This combined with the shock nerf makes this fight actually pretty tough. Instead of just being able to barrel through the fight doing like 500 damage, I actually have to think about the right time to use my charge and get the most out of it. Combined with the shock nerf, Capacity is starting to feel a lot weaker now. But either out of pure stubbornness or laziness, I still believe he can help us take out the boss of this dungeon. So after running home really quick to grab a poison and a moonstone, we load into the boss, Snapdragon. And immediately he outspeeds me due to Starcy's low speed greatly lowering our average speed and putting a status on me called Tangled. When you're tangled, you're completely unable to play skills. This is quite quite bad, seeing as Capacitor has one single attack in her deck, and Starcy only has healing skills. With no other real options, I have Starcy spam regen and end my turn. And despite Capacitor getting back to full health, the onslaught of the 3 snappers is enough to overwhelm and kill Capacitor, forcing her to use her recharge ability. But despite things looking grim, Capacitor can finally attack. However, that doesn't mean as much as it once did. You see, before the charge and shock nerfs, I could fire off a 12-power charge into a shock and kill the Snapdragon in one hit. Now though, I can't even use charge and shock on the same turn due to its increased cost. I settle for a pretty lame shock that barely even dents Snapdragon. And due to her lack of damage, Capacitor is completely taken out the very next turn. And seeing as Starcy has no attacks in his deck, we lose the battle. And with that, we're given our first ever major loss of this run. Not a, oh, we were so close, not, oh, we just got a little unlucky. A complete and utter loss. And by now, you've probably accepted a truth that I should have accepted a long time ago, but was too afraid to admit. Capacity's time was long over. Despite all the work she put in, all the guardians she plowed over, and being on this journey since the very beginning, she could no longer cut it. The nerfs had been too harsh to her, and now she was nothing but dead weight. Cassidy, I'm sorry, but I think this is actually a good thing. You put in so much work for countless hours throughout this run, and now it's time for you to rest. Relax in the spirit barn, just pooping out sparks for these last 40 days. But with Capacity gone, who will replace her? And first of all, how dare you even suggest something so cruel? She could literally never be replaced. She is a star girl boss queen, mamas. And secondly, I decided to look through the spirits we have in our barn. You see, each spirit type has mechanics specific to them, like electric spirits having charge, water spirits having regen, and poison spirits having, well, poison. After checking through them all, I realized I never look at what psychic spirits mechanic was. I take a look at my newt and see that their special mechanic is generating energy and also free card draw. Yeah, there's no way this is going to be balanced, is there? Psychic spirits have cards like draw 2 cards for 0 energy, gain 2 energy, and draw until you have 9 cards in your hand, and triple your energy? I quickly see that an infinite is more than possible with these cards and commit to a psychic spirits. And seeing as Pasho is my lowest level 1, I decided to go with him. I had saved up all my extra experience eye berries, and combined with my tiny flowers, I'm able to get Pasho all the way to level 23. I also have a ton of cleanse and meditaker relics saved up from last season, so we can manipulate little Pasho's deck however we so please. I save here and try out a couple different builds, and after playing through some of them, I ultimately decide on one that I feel very confident will lead us to victory. And not just here, but for the entire rest of the run. I have a quick date with Asano to boost my confidence, and then it's back to the Fall Temple to claim my victory. The battle starts off, and since Pasho is a little under leveled here, we're outsped. Luckily, before this fight, I craft a concoction with 8 vitality, bringing my health from 25 all the way to 100, giving me some serious survivability. But this doesn't stop the enemy from completely breaking my armor. And since I only brought Pasho to this fight, I'm defenseless for the next turn and forced to pass and just pray.
Alright, Pashno, you just gotta survive one more turn. Just survive. Just survive. Come on, buddy. Okay. Wait, no, you're tangled! Ah, crap! Oh, are you joking, man? Sit here and wait a while. Alright, now we're so back. And with surviving that 3-turn onslaught, we can finally get to work and try out Pasho's deck. And you're gonna have to ride with me on this one because it's gonna get a little complicated. You see, Pasho's deck revolves around having a little bit of a larger deck with 15 cards, but having all of these cards exhaust and give powerful effects along the way. First, we get to gain 2 energy and then draw 2 cards all for free. We draw a couple more energy generating cards until we're sitting at 10 whole energy. From there, we can play Enlighten, tripling our energy, giving us 27. Then I play a card called Momentum. This card lets me draw a card whenever I play a card for the rest of combat. Then after this, I play a card that lets me draw cards until I have 9 in my hand. Now from here, there is only one single card that isn't in my hand. I can use a card called Let Go that lets me discard a card and gain its cost as energy. And I've got a card here that I can exhaust for 3 energy. This draws me into the last remaining card in my deck, Reflection, which deals damage and draws a card. And since I've played Momentum, it actually draws 2 cards. Then I can play my second Reflection and draw 2 more cards, giving me Let Go and the 3-cost card again. And since our cards actually only cost 2 to play, we're gaining 3 energy every time we do it. And now the deck is infinite. Actually, it's better than infinite. It's actually forever generating more energy. We've actually broken all laws of science and are now creating energy out of nothing. All the while, I'm little by little chipping away the boss's health. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Shawnee Do, at the beginning of this series, you started your entire run over because you said card draws are broken, but now you're
using it again? And I've got 3 things to say to that. Firstly, I'm 30 hours in, and there are like 4 battles left in this game. Cut me some goddamn slack. Secondly, after I informed the dev team that card draw was broken, they did a mass nerf to all card draw cards, like Perception now costing 1, or Surge now costing 2. However, all of these Psychic Spirit cards were completely untouched by that nerf that I informed them of by that way. So in my mind, this is still fair game. And after slowly spamming reflections on the Snapdragon, I'm able to take him out and collect myself my 3rd seal. Now, just 1 more remains. I head back home, feed my spirits, add star speed back to the team, and spend the rest of the night collecting some more relic arches so I can perfect Pasho's deck. I find a Psychic Storm allowing me to collect the last 2 autumn crops. That night, I also realized that I've now discovered 54 out of 66 spirits in the game, with every poison spirit tamed, and also every fire spirit discovered. I know there's also 1 boss in the Winter Temple, and what I presume to be a final boss, and some winter exclusive ice spirits, meaning I'm very close to completely finishing all of them. On day 62, I sell the Psychic Island exclusive crops to the greenhouse, completing the Fall Seeds quest. On the way home, I run into Asano.
Oh, I got no Riz.
With most of the spirits being season locked and all our major autumn goals completed, I decide to set my sights on a new objective. Back all the way at the beginning of the game, Tobin sent me a letter asking me to catch all of the extra rare fish. I'll need the highest quality, being Moonstone quality, of the following fishes: Blobfish from a poison island, Sparkstar from an electrical island, and Cinderfish from a fire island. I decide to start out with the electrical island, cast on my line, and start fishing. The way this game works is the farther you cast out your line, the greater odds of hooking a high quality fish. So it's important to be getting a perfect cast every single time. I spend the whole day fishing, but don't get any Moonstone quality fish, much less the one I need. Once it gets dark though, I spend the rest of my nights scavenging around islands looking for much needed Moonstones. On day 63, I finally managed to gather up enough Moonstones to craft myself a greenhouse. This was a big goal of mine, because I want to craft some crazy concoctions for the last couple fights, and having access to all season crops will make that much easier. I then craft around 50 more sprinklers to place on my farm, as I think having a ton of money at the end of the series will be a really big flex. That's pretty much the only reason. I spend the rest of the day hoeing around and setting all those up before finding a Psychic Storm at night. Here, I discover a new spirit, Beardini, who Farrah the blacksmith actually just requested I give to her. I tame Beardini and then head to bed for the night. The next morning, I give Farrah her Beardini, of whom she loves, and she rewards me by giving me the crafting recipe to a better furnace. This processes ore twice as fast as the regular furnace, which might be the first reward from this entire spirit matchmaking quest that was actually in any way worth it. After that, I head to a fire island and tame myself a Shmeep, as it's my best guess on the cuddly fire spirit that Quill wants. Though I can't really say this thing looks very cuddly to me. To me, it looks like the product of intense inbreeding, but you know, to each their own. And since I'm already at the fire island, I decide I might as well try for the rare Cinderfish here. And after a couple hours of no luck, I head home and give Quill his little monstrosity. I find Asano, give her a beer, and ask her on a beach date tomorrow because we've been going to the hot springs too often. I mean, we haven't been there in like a month, but whatever you want, girl. That night, I unlock the Moonstone bracelet crafting recipe, which I presume to be the way that you propose to someone. On day 65, I head back to the electrical island to fish and have a pretty easy time catching fish until one starts beating my butt. After a tough fight, I reel it in, and it is in fact the Moonstone quality Sparkstar we've been looking for. With that finish, I head over to a poison island and try my luck there, but don't manage to catch the fish. And then I head over to my date with Asano. I nail her questions and nearly get to max hearts. On day 66, I give my Sparkstar to Tobin, and he now stocks the reinforced fishing rod, an upgraded version of my current fishing rod, which allows me to cast further. After purchasing the new rod, I head to a nearby poison island to check the blobfish off my list. I also realized that nailing a perfect throw of my bobber was semi-difficult, so I built a line of bridges next to where I'm casting. This way I can use the bridges to mark where the peak of my cast is, making it much easier to get consistent catches. With no luck on catching for the day, I spend my night once again looking for moonstones. On day 67, my specter flowers are finally ready to be harvested, so I spend the day plucking all of these. Unfortunately, I'm not able to pluck them all as I need to get over to my date with Asano at 8 p.m. And with this last date, we've maximized her friendship hearts. Honestly, despite all my schemes at first, I've really enjoyed my time with Asano these past 2 seasons. That night, we also see the first batch of profits from our specter flowers roll in, giving us a cool 75k. The next morning, I finish harvesting my specter flowers, and luckily, I actually got so many seeds from harvesting that I don't need to buy any seeds to fill out the rest of my plots. The rest of the day is just spent fishing and then moonstoning. It's day 69. I replace all my furnaces with better furnaces and then get to more fishing, but still have no luck with the blobfish. Day 70, still fishing. I managed to get moonstone quality versions of every other poison fish, but no such luck with the blobfish. On day 71, I give Asano the moonstone bracelet, making her officially my girlfriend. Then, as a little celebration, I ask if she'd like to go on a date to her bedroom, and what do you mean she said no? Heartbroken, I head to the only people I can rely on, the fish. And they still reliably do not give me the blobfish. The next day, my specter flowers have grown in once again, so I had to spend most of my day harvesting those. But that night, I run into a psychic storm, and I try to grind out as many encounters as I can. I really need some more psychic eggs, as I suspect the psychic spirit I'm missing is an egg exclusive. Unfortunately, though, we don't manage to get a single one. On day 73, I re-ask Asano to her room, and this time she finally accepts. Also, I realize that this last sentence is making me sound like a where's my hug guy, but come on, just forget that. After that, fish. You'll never guess what I do on day 74, but for once, it actually pays off, as after 7 straight days of fishing, I finally have the Moonstone quality blobfish. Holy crap, why did it take that long? I do like that the blobfish is not a normal blobfish though, he's just like a blob. And Tobin is not in his goddamn shop, you hog. Unable to turn in the fish, I buy everyone at the bar a round of drinks to celebrate my incredible blobfish cache and then go up to Asano's room for our bedroom date.
So what do you do after a day's work? I'd love to spend it alone. I usually think about you. Put things in chests and go to sleep immediately. That's actually pretty funny. And with that, I'm going to bed. You can, come with me if you'd like. Oh! Nailed it. Oh my god, we woke up here!
I realize that I have enough materials to craft speed potions for the rest of my 100 days, so I hemorrhage the spirit poop I've been holding on to. After that, I turn our blobfish into Tobin, where he starts stocking the next tier of fishing rod. Unfortunately though, it requires 3 iron ingots, and I've run the iron chest completely dry, so it's time to restock. The caves I headed to happen to be on a water island as well, so we get to encounter Torble, the last water spirit we've yet to tame. On day 76, I can now buy the greater fishing rod and head to a fire island to try our hand at grabbing the last mythical fish. Hopefully our upgraded rod here will make this one go at least a little bit faster. Okay, well, I wasn't expecting that quickly. On day 77, more specter flowers have grown in, so I take the day harvesting all of those, though the amount is so large that I actually have to take a good chunk of the following morning to pluck them all. After that, I turn in the final mythical fish to Tobin, completing the quest. Oh my god, that took so long. The reward is the final fishing rod upgrade, the Moonstone Rod. I'll make sure to grab it before the 100 days are up, just for completionist's sake. Free from the clutches of the fish at last, I decide to attend to a letter from Cleo that I got a while ago, asking me to tame her a wolf. However, when we get to the Dark Island, things are not as easy as I thought. You see, Pasha is nearly 20 levels lower than Capacity was, so she has a much harder time standing up to these powerful dark spirits. In addition, Capacity's deck was really just focused on drawing 3 more cards in any real order. Pasha, on the other hand, relies entirely on her draw cards, drawing more draw cards so she can play her entire deck in one turn. This doesn't work super well when Starcy's here, messing up the deck with all of his terrible regen cards. As such, I spend the day trying to take on dark spirits, but we're just too weak. I warp home and throw a Karaoke that I recruited a while ago onto the team, as I figure his high level and big health bar will help us stay alive long enough to recruit Wolfbane. By the time we get there, it's already pretty late though, so I decide to just crash at our beach house since it's right next to the Dark Island. The following morning, I head straight to the Dark Island, and Karaoke's bulk helps us survive, and he even has some energy generating cards that help us use a lot more Spectre flowers on one turn. With this help, we're easily able to tame ourselves a Wolfbane. I use the rest of our day to chug an abundance potion and gather some wood, as we're gonna need much more if we want to end the series with a fully upgraded home and greenhouse. That night, we encounter a psychic storm, which aren't these things supposed to be rare? I feel like we get them every night. Irregardless, I encounter a new psychic spirit, Rablet, who's half rabbit, half lamp. Who would ever combine those two things? It's like mustard and ice cream. On day 80, I decide to continue exploring the Dark Island, as I've been given the top secret intel that there are 2 dark spirits I'm missing. This time, I decide to swap out Pasho entirely in favor of taking Wolfbane, since she was always just dying on the first turn anyway. After arriving, I find a new spirit called Darkoffy, who I am in love with. If dark spirits weren't so unusable because of their level, I would 100% add this guy to the team. But the world isn't fair, and he will sit in the spirit barn, never having another second of screen time. I search for pretty much the rest of the day until finally at sunset, I find the last dark spirit I've been missing, Evil Eye. Evil Eye lives up to his name and is quite evil, as he rejects taming 3 times in a row and makes me go through 20 Spectre flowers. But eventually I'm able to get him on the team, and out of spite for this moment, he will also be receiving no more screen time in this video. With the taming for today done, Wolfbane has done his duty, so I go and hand him off to Cleo. Not sure why a wholesome looking person like her wants the dog of the freaking underworld following her, but I'll leave that for somebody else's 100 days videos to find out. On day 81, I upgrade my greenhouse to the max level and get all but 2 house expansions. I'll need to gather a little bit more wood and stone for that one. one. So I spend the rest of the night cutting down trees. On day 82, my final patch of specter plants are ready, so I take the day to harvest them. Don't know what I'm going to do with all this money, but in the words of Ronald Reagan, it's better to be rich than poor. On day 83, I head to Paolo's and buy the basement double expanded upgrade to my house, bringing it to the final level. I also have been doing some thinking, and due to Pasho's performance on the Dark Island, it might be good to have a backup spirit. You see, since Pasho's stats are heavily optimized to be towards speed to make his bash do a lot of armor, if I recruited a different psychic spirit, they could be more optimized in power and vitality, splitting the cards from Pasho's deck among the two of them. I take a look around at my possible choices and ultimately decide on Taro, as his low level combined with his usable ability will make him fit right in. I used some of the tiny flowers I had laying around from summer to boost him to be on the same level as the rest of the team. And after doing some deck management, Taro's officially ready to join the squad. I spend the rest of the day going around farming relic arches to further enhance both Taro and Pasho's deck. That night, I decide to test out our new team, and I end up getting 113 energy. So yeah, I think we're gonna be fine in the Winter Temple. We also come across another psychic island that I decide to farm for some much needed psychic eggs. And I discover a new spirit, Look At You. We tame him, bring our total of required spirits down to just 7 more needed. And Look At You is already off to a great start, as the day after we tamed him, he lays an egg, saving me tons of time in psychic storm farming. Well, that is assuming this egg gives me the last psychic spirit. Since today is the final day of autumn, I take the time to prep for the upcoming Winter Temple boss fight by making a bunch of concoctions. By optimizing stats on who needs what, we can make really absurd buffs, like this one I'm cooking here that gives plus 10 vitality. I'll also be sure to make some debuff ones for use on any enemies we run into. I plan to stay at the beach house tomorrow to pick up the new winter crop, so I make a bunch of preparations to be gone for a day. In addition to that, I realize my last specter flowers are done, so before I head out, I make sure to harvest every last one. Because of all this, I end up heading out pretty late, but just barely make it to bed before passing out. That night, I make sure to grab a perk that makes spirit eggs drop from combat more often, just in case that's one of the spirits I missed. It's the beginning of the end as we enter the first day of the final season, winter. But even though there's only 15 days left, we still have a ton to do. First of which being to collect all the new winter crops. We start off with this cute little snowman plant, then crescent fruit, chili berry, and snow flobes, all of which spawn on our base beach island. And hey, look, all the water even froze over. That's a cute touch. After that, we head over to a dark island to grab icicle root and a black pearl, popcorn plant and bulb shroom from electrical island, ruby plant, and my personal favorite, sweater plant from a fire island. With that, my inventory's full, so I warp back home to drop some of the seeds off the botanist, quickly feed my spirits, and incubate another psychic egg that my magic hat dropped. With that pit stop done, it's right back out there. First stop is to a poison island to pick up the last 2 crops, sap plant and flake flowers. With those collected, I head over to the 4th and final temple, the Winter Temple, and unlock the doors by using my popcorn plant and bulb shrooms.
This place is scary. This place is scary. I want to go home. I want to go home.
I head into the first fight and...
Uh-oh. Okay. I need you to live. I need you to live. Why do you do these things? Why would you do that to me, man? And I have no card draw.
Luckily, my single card draw card allows me to draw a card that draws me 9 more cards. I started attacking them, but then realized that since I have so much energy, it's probably just quicker to tame them, then release them, which is exactly what I do. Probably not the intended way to beat that fight, but hey, it worked. We grab our temple weapon in the teleporter, which lets you instantly teleport to the location of your mouse. Far and away one of the coolest items in this entire game. I also see the next relic altar, and it requires a beacon, and oh my god, we're gonna have to do more fishing. Luckily, after heading to a fire island, literally the second fish we catch is a cinder fish, meaning no more fishing, which is good because I could feel the PTSD crawling back in even just casting my line. A beacon, on the other hand, just requires a moonstone and 10 stone, so I foraged one off a nearby island, and since it's pretty late, decide to head back to the temple first thing tomorrow. Sheesh, that was an eventful first day of winter. But the tempo isn't stopping on the second day as we head straight to the Winter Temple, plop in the 2 required items, and a pillar appears that I can teleport over to and face a slightly larger Sparky. In this battle, we get to, a lot of energy, so safe to say we can pretty easily move on. The final altar just needs sparks and a single moonstone, so I warp home and quickly grab the spark. Though I'll have to wait until night to grab the moonstone. In the meantime, I find the new type of spirit that winter introduces, ice spirits. That's right, a completely new spirit type. I tame a Bonquin, who I feel nothing for, Bandicool, who I'd literally die for, and Sorbitan, who I somehow like even more than Bandicool. And that's every ice spirit in the game, just those 3. I also find this beach ball with sunglasses, who is not an ice spirit, but I 100% forgot to tame him before, so now we have officially tamed all water spirits as well. That night, I successfully picked myself up a moonstone, which we can bring to the Winter Temple the following morning to finish the last altar. I feed my spirits some last minute concoctions and then head into our final boss fight.
This guy's scary.
And immediately upon getting into the fight, they take out Pasho, which was my only unit with Bash. Okay, not ideal, but we can still pull this out by going infinite. But it's then that I noticed something far worse than just Pasho dying.
Why does consume cost 2? What? Why is it 3? Cost 3? What? Why does perception cost 3? What? Increase the cost of a random mini card by 1 every 3 seconds? Okay. Oh my god, what the f? Is this for the whole battle? Huh? Oh my god. Holy it goes so fast. Okay. Okay, gain 1 energy. This is so counterintuitive to my deck. Holy okay, momentum. Perception. Okay, end turn. Every 3 seconds, what the hell? Oh my god. This is insanity. This was the worst deck to bring to this. I have no energy. It's Jover. How could I ever do this? I lost my freaking best unit. Okay. I just gotta enter. Is it really for the whole battle? How could I ever win this in a million years? Oh, I can't even play any cards, man. There's nothing you can even do. How is that even allowed? How can that even possibly be allowed? Okay, hold on. This is the one. Are you joking? We have no attacks in our deck? What? They're telling you that they want you to play with a big deck. I got that. I gathered that. That's slightly unfortunate because I built my entire strategy around having a really small deck. But it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, guys. It's okay. Don't worry, guys. We'll make it work. We'll just pull some people off the squad.
I look at the remaining spirits I have in my barn, and I know that there's only one spirit that can save us. I missed you, old friend. I also throw Karyote and my Newt on the squad, as their fairly high levels mean they have pretty large decks and synergize perfectly against Sparkling's ability. So with the B team rounded up, I head into the battle with the orb once again. Upon entering the battle, I realize an immediate flaw with this plan. I have never seen any of these cards in my entire life, and I have no idea what they do, meaning that I need to take the time to read out each one's text. Which, you know, is not exactly great when the whole point of this entire battle is to go as fast as possible. Lucky for me though, it looks like all the spirits here are weak to dark attacks, meaning on the very first turn, I can take out one of the little Sparkies. But despite that, they're still hitting us for pretty big damage, and progress is slow. Until, like a miracle, Capacity blesses us one last time. Somehow, in a deck of 125 cards, I'm able to draw her single bash. This stuns the boss long enough for Karyote to go for the kill with his Dark Strikes, giving us the victory. And with that, we're able to collect the last seal of the game. And I immediately head over to the rift to place them. I figure there's probably going to be some type of boss fight here, but I already used all my good concoctions on the B squad, so I decide to just run with them instead. I place the last 2 seals in the altars, but when I do...
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, and we fight. Oh. Missing no. And he. Oh. What's his ability? Okay. Copy that.
The major problem with this team is that there's really only one reliable way to reduce a spirit's armor, and that's Capacity's Bash card, meaning that since we don't draw it, we're forced to attack Missing No through his 20 armor, which gives us less than ideal results. I drain a little of his health, and then Missing No summons more spirits called Pupoxes to attack us. To try and weaken the pack, I use a really risky card from Karyote. You deal 48 damage 3 times to either a random enemy or yourself, meaning I have a 25% chance to die. But I don't really have any other choice, so I use it, and I get insanely lucky and manage to hit the enemy every time, greatly weakening one of his minions. However, they retaliate by killing Capacity, which without her bash is going to make this very difficult. But I'm able to take out one of the Pupox, and after that, I draw my risky card once again. If we could just not hit ourselves, we could actually pull this one out. Yep, and we hit ourselves and immediately lose the fight. Fair. We weren't able to edge this one out with the B squad, but you guys did good. You did so good. I wake up and warp back to assemble the A team and find that my psychic egg has hatched into a Mista Slime, the last psychic spirit I needed to tame. And I think she might be my favorite so far. I mean, look how cute that hat is. But with my real team back, I head back to the rift and try to take on the Missing No once again. He reduces us all to just 1 health, but that should be no problem, as my insane card draw and energy generation should let us finish this in 1 turn. Small problem problem though, I'm able to generate 89 energy, but don't draw a single card draw card. So not only is this turn a complete waste, but I've now exhausted all my good energy generation cards. And since I don't have any more concoctions, my spirits are super weak. Missing No summons his minions once again, meaning I have to win right here or it's over. We don't draw too many card draw cards, but we do happen to draw into one that lets us draw 7, and we get momentum. And with that, we're able to easily whittle down Missing No and eventually defeat him.
Too easy. Oh, an icicle root. Nice. You did it. I feel almost normal again. You've done a great service to this world, dear alchemist. By closing one of the many rifts that are causing an imbalance in the natural order, you have saved us. You have saved the world. I didn't even know any of that was happening. It will take a long time for nature to heal, for balance to be restored, but you have shown us it can be done. The greatest step is always the first one, and you will not be alone for the next. Thank you. Even if I am the only one who knows what you have done, thank you. Then he just left. Well, that seemed easy enough.
With the main story now completed, we've got the last couple days to just go ahead and tie up some loose ends around town. First of which can be done by giving Ophelia the ice spirit she asked for, meaning everyone in town now has their own spirit companion except Rowan. I also find a psychic storm tonight, collecting the last 2 crops in the game, snowdrops and gift plants. On day 89, I head to a dark island as I'm still missing one last dark spirit. I arrive and find that the pup box from the Missing No fight can now be tamed, which I do. On day 90, I turn that research into Zed and can see all the remaining spirits I'm missing. Firstly, due to a bug in the way eggs were registering, the game doesn't have me as ever having tamed the fire spirit Prithee. Then I guess I just never tamed a Flamane. And finally, one last earth spirit that I have apparently never even seen. After racking my brain on who it could possibly be, I finally realize Anklo. Anklo is one of the starter spirits in this game, and seeing as I have never once seen him, I presume you can only find him by hatching him out of an egg. But before we get to our last task, I noticed that at the end of those 100 days videos, they always show off this beautiful looking house to show how far they came. So I take all day and design myself the most beautiful home I can think of. It's perfect. And with that, we're on to day 91 and time to grind out those last 3 spirits. I'm a little afraid about not being able to get both eggs and hatch them by the time the 100 days are up, so I make an absolutely nuclear choice. I release every single spirit in my spirit farm that isn't earth or fire. But right after I do that, Rowan sends me a letter requesting their spirit. Luckily, their request is any spirit of our choosing, which is perfect as pickings are pretty slim these days. I decide to give them Look at You as, look how cute he is. And for all my spirit pairing, I'm actually given a reward.
What the hell? Yo! Oh my god, I'm so legitimate! This was worth it. That was so worth it.
But sick moves aside, now it's egg time. I make sure to brush every spirit I have left to increase their chances of dropping an egg. Then I head to the Earth and Fire Island and tame as many spirits as I possibly can. This is both giving me eggs from defeating them and also giving them a chance to drop them in my barn. Additionally, I make sure to recruit myself a Flamane along the way. After filling my entire barn with Earth and Fire spirits, I just come in every day, feed them, brush them, and then wait for the eggs to hatch. On day 96, Prithee hatches, and on day 97, Anklo finally does as well, giving us our very last spirit. I turn that research into Zed, and the next day he sends me a letter congratulating us for finding every single spirit, and as a thank you, gives us the blueprints to craft his own house. Okay, a little self-righteous there, man. On day 99, I complete the last task I want to achieve and purchase the upgraded fishing rod. And with that, we've done everything there is to do in Moonstone Island. Well, except we do technically have one quest left. Live 1 year on Moonstone Island. And even though this is technically past 100 days, I decide to just sleep to the end of the year so I can have truly everything completed. And after sleeping on Winter 7...
Oh shoot! They met us in the ethereal plane! Sweetheart, hi, it's your mother. I'm calling you through your dreams. Hope that's okay. It's been such a long time since you used Onakamaramancy. But you haven't been returning our letters. Are you eating well? Are you healthy? Darling, stop fretting. Kiddo, we got your results last night. Uh-oh. You did it! Aw, that would have been sad if I didn't. Your father's such a prankster. He did the same when I got my results. And you didn't just pass, kiddo. You passed with honors. Passing with honors is the best possible evaluation you can get. As a reward, your mother wants to cast a spell on you. Well, actually, she already did. You'll have it when you wake up. It's called the Ultimate Alchemist Blessing, and it makes spirits friendlier towards you and makes them easier to tame. Oh, cool. We're super proud of you, kiddo, especially because you technically did better than me. Your new friends were just telling us that there's a fireworks show tonight, too. You should definitely go.
And that night, I do just that. I head to the fireworks festival and say my goodbyes to Moonstone Island. Thanks for one amazing year.